Hello, sweet people, and welcome back to the channel, or if it is your first time, welcome especially. I'm Sally. I'm really glad you stopped by. Today I'm going to be sharing my marshmallow recipe because I've gotten a couple requests recently to share this after I mentioned some marshmallows I made in, I think it was a YouTube short or on Instagram, so I figured I would just share this recipe here. You can do it with honey or with maple syrup. I love using maple syrup because it's a good way to sneak in just a little bit of, calcium, potassium, magnesium, manganese, lots of important minerals. Maple syrup is just a great sweetener when it comes to that kind of thing. So that's what I'm using today, but just feel free to sub it out for honey. Of course, please don't forget to like this video if you like what you see here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's get into it. This recipe is super minimal when it comes to ingredients, and only 3 are actually required. I've got a half cup of lukewarm water. I've got my Zen Principle beef gelatin powder. This is grass-fed and pasture-raised, super important when it comes to actually getting what you want to get from it and avoiding toxins. I will link this in the description box. We've got our maple syrup, and then these 2 are optional, but we've got vanilla extract and I've got some sea salt. First up, I'm going to divide this water between 2 different things. We're putting a 1/4 cup into a small saucepan. That looks about right. And then my other 1/4 cup is going into my KitchenAid. You can also use a hand mixer for this. I'm now going to go ahead and measure out my maple syrup. You actually need quite a bit of this. We are going to add 1/2 cup to the pan with the water. Along with just a pinch of our sea salt. I'm now just going to bring my maple syrup mixture to a boil, and we are going to let it simmer for about 8 to 10 minutes to get nice and thick to reduce. While our mixture on the stove is coming to a boil, we are going to go ahead and bloom our gelatin. This is a super important step. It will clump together if you don't do this, but I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of my gelatin to the water. And at this point, I like to just give it a little swirl to kind of make sure it's all in contact with the water, but you don't need to mix it too aggressively. Ultimately, you just want everything, again, exposed to the water. I might put just the tiniest bit more on top to make sure that's the case, and it's gonna sit for about 5 minutes at least, really just until that maple mixture is done to bloom. Our maple mixture has reduced. You kind of know what's happened. Obviously it's going to decrease in volume, but once it gets super bubbly on the stove and you start to smell it, I am going to carefully pour the hot mixture over the gelatin using a spatula here to get all of it out. I'm going to add just a little bit of vanilla. I never measure, but anywhere from a 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon is great. And now we're gonna pop this into the stand mixer. I still have this because I may or may not be gonna lick it clean, but we're gonna pop this into the stand mixer and just drop this down. Let me change your angle real quick. So we're gonna carefully take this up to high, and it's gonna take a little bit and it will look liquidy for a while, but then kind of all of a sudden, it's gonna form stiff peaks. So you do wanna keep an eye on it. Now that we have stiff peaks, we want to move pretty quickly. I've gone ahead and kind of lined a baking dish, really whatever works, just a glass dish with some parchment, and I greased that parchment with coconut oil because you see this starts to set up really, really quickly. Ultimately, I'm just going to put this into the baking dish and it's gonna set up and turn into marshmallows. It's the next morning and I've gone ahead, I've made myself a little kind of maple cinnamon latte. I cut up my marshmallows just using kitchen shears. As you can see, they're a little, we'll say artisan. They're not perfectly square just because of how thick it got before I put it in the baking dish, but you could theoretically whip them for a little bit less time and then it would be smoother around the edges because you'd have more time to work with. But I'm just going to top my latte with a couple marshmallows. I know it sounds kind of funny, but I've done this before and it's really tasty. So I'm just gonna top this with a couple marshmallows and with a little sprinkle of cinnamon, maybe. All right, we're going to sit back and enjoy this morning. These do not get kept in the fridge. That's the last thing I needed to tell you, but I hope y'all enjoy. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time. Bye, y'all.